Hello happy crocheters, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com, and today I'm going to walk you through the steps to make this Tunisian crochet hat. This is a little bit more like a guide than a pattern, so I'm just going to walk you through the process. So this hat is made out of a simple rectangle using both Tunisian crochet and regular crochet. First we are going to crochet a rib brim, and then we are going to pull up loops and Tunisian crochet the rest of the hat. So let's go ahead and start step one, which is to crochet this ribbed brim. I have my 5mm crochet hook here. We are going to make a slip knot and start by chaining 8, though you can chain as many as you like depending on how wide you want your brim to be. So there is 6, 7, and 8. Now we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and we are going to single crochet in each chain down this row. Once we reach the end of the row, so that is our first row, we will chain 1 and turn our work. We are going to be single crocheting in the back loop only of every stitch. So you're going to be going down through the center of your stitch and out the back, so we are under only the back loop. And then we will complete our single crochet. To do that again, go down the center of the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Go down the center, out the back, yarn over and pull up a loop. And we will do this all the way to the end of the row. When we reach the end of row 2, we are going to chain 1 and we are going to repeat row 2. So turn and single crochet in the back loop only of every stitch across. And you are going to continue repeating row 2 until you have a brim that is the correct length for your hat size. So here I have a small section worked up, and it's obviously not large enough to be a hat, but what you're looking for in the length is that it's about 1 inch to 2 inches shorter than the circumference of your head or the head that you are making this for. If you check out the written tutorial, I have a chart showing all the different measurements you can use depending on what size hat you are trying to make. But moving on to show you the next step in this process, we are going to be switching from working crochet to working Tunisian crochet. We're going to take out our crochet hook and insert our Tunisian crochet hook. What we want to do is pull up a loop into the side of every row that we worked in our brim section. But our Tunisian crochet hook is a 6.5mm hook, and it's going to be really hard getting into those smaller rows. So in order to pull up those rows, we are going to go ahead and use our crochet hook to help us put those loops onto our Tunisian crochet hook. The first loop on our hook is already the first stitch for that first row, so I'm going to go into the side of the second row, insert my crochet hook, yarn over, pull up this loop, pull it through the row, and then pull it up and put it over my Tunisian crochet hook and pull that tight. So now I have 2 stitches on my Tunisian crochet hook. I'm going to go into the side of the next row, yarn over, pull the loop through the stitch, pull that over, and add that to my Tunisian crochet hook. I'm going to do this all the way down our row. And then when I'm done, I should have the same number of loops on my Tunisian crochet hook as I made rows in the brim section of our hat. Again, your brim is going to be much larger than mine. I'm just using a smaller section as an example. As you can see, I have all my loops pulled up. I should have the same number of loops as I had rows in the brim section. Now your brim is going to be much longer, so you're going to be using your entire hook for this. And you will probably have to squish your loops up on your hook to make it fit. That is completely okay. That is the best way to be able to fit a hat on a long hook like this. So I want you to think of this as our foundation Tunisian crochet row. I'm going to complete this row by making a chain 1. I'll yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, just like we do on a normal return pass, yarn over and pull through 2, and repeat this process until we only have one loop left on the hook. Since this is a longer project, whenever my stitches are getting really stretched out, I will go ahead and push them up to closer to the hook end of my Tunisian crochet hook. When you reach the end of your foundation row, now you can start using any stitch you would like for the top section of this hat. As you can see the hat above, I used a knit stitch. You can also use the Tunisian simple stitch. You can use the full stitch or the smock stitch. Any stitch would be just fine. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and do a few stitches of the Tunisian simple stitch. But all you would do from now on is just work row after row of your favorite Tunisian stitch until your hat is as tall as it needs to be for the pattern. Again, there is a written portion to this guide. This is just the video guide of a tutorial, and that written portion has a chart that tells you how tall you want to make your hat. And then once your hat is as tall as it needs to be, then I will show you how to go ahead and finish up your hat. So this hat now measures as tall as I want it to be. It is just a baby hat, so it's not very tall. And I did go ahead and fasten off doing a binding row at the top of the hat. If you don't know how to Tunisian crochet, I have a complete Tunisian crochet course teaching all of these stitches, how to make a foundation row, how to bind off, and more. So make sure to check that out. So I'm just measuring my hat here, and I'm seeing that I'm about 7.5 or so inches, and that is what I need roughly for a baby hat. If I wanted to, I'd probably add a few more extra rows, but instead I'm just going to show you how to finish up this hat and turn a rectangle into a hat. So I'm taking my 2 short ends, and I'm taking a yarn and a needle, and I am going to sew these together. In the video you're going to see me use something called the invisible stitch, and I decided later that I absolutely do not like this. I think it looks much better if you use a whip stitch because it pulls the stitches closer together. And as you can see, the stitches on this one, the sides are not quite as pretty as I'd like them to be. So I definitely recommend that you use a whip stitch to whip stitch the sides together. So I am just going to speed this up here. I am doing what they call an invisible stitch, which is a really nice stitch, but because these edges aren't as nice as I'd like them to be, I would recommend the whip stitch, or even turning the edges in and do a running stitch and just having a little bit of a bulkiness on the inside of the seam. Once your seam is sewn all the way to the top, the next thing we're going to do is gather the top of the hat. And I use what I call the star method to do this. I'm going to use my yarn end that I just used to sew up the side of the hat, and I am going to basically draw a star in the top opening of my hat. So I'm going directly up to the top section. I'm going to go down and over a little bit, going over to the side, and then going across the other side, trying to keep these sections in between my stitches as even as possible. So if you look, you can see that I have a star forming. I'm going to go right back to the very first spot where my yarn came from, and that is going to give me a star in the top of my hat. Now I'm just going to pull this tight. And you can see that one section is a little bit longer. I would recommend going back and fixing that, but for the sake of the video, I am just going to continue on. So now we're going to do the process a second time. I'm going to take my yarn needle and come out to one of my folds, and then I'm going to make a star pattern again. So I'm going to go up to the top section, the top point. I'm going to skip one fold and go into the next one. I'm going to go over to this too large fold. Go to the last one that we haven't done yet, and then come right back down to the very first one. And with the star method, if you pull this tight again, it's going to fold all these ends in nice and neatly. It actually gives you a fold at the top of the hat that looks nice even if you don't top it with a pom-pom. So then I just weave my yarn into the center of my hat, fasten it off, and this hat is complete once we have all of our yarn ends woven in. But if you want, you can also grab a pom-pom and place a pom-pom on the top of your hat to hide your fold as well. So that is how you make a Tunisian crochet hat using a crochet brim. I have made this hat with several different Tunisian crochet stitches and they all turn out very beautiful. So I hope you liked the pattern guide and you're enjoying the Tunisian crochet course, and as always, thank you so much for watching.